Hey everyone, Duke here, and today we're talking about all the changes in the master version of Crota's End, so you can get the new Adept weapons, cosmetics, and work towards the Swordbearer title. Do note that I will be assuming most knowledge of the normal raid in this video with a few caveats, but if you would like to learn more about the full mechanics on normal, check out my video linked below. Also, I will be doing helps on these master challenges throughout the season on my stream at twitch.tv/dukeiscool, so come on by. Getting right into it, let's talk about a few of the changes throughout the entirety of the raid on Master. The first and major change is that the raid is at 1840 power with a maximum effectiveness of 1820. This means that if you are at least 1820 power, you will be as strong as you're going to ever be in this raid with the forced -20 modifier. However, if you are below 1820, you will deal less damage and take more damage than someone that is at 1820 or above. Throughout the raid, there's going to be a number of extra barrier and unstoppable champions. Do note that the screen mentions that overloads are in this raid, but this is an error as there are no overloads throughout the raid. Overcharged weapons are also active, which means that any champion weapon from the seasonal artifact will do more damage, and kinetic weapons will also do extra damage if you're running an active Surge subclass. Speaking of surges, at least for the first week, Solar and Strand Surge are active throughout the raid, which means that all Solar and Strand damage that you do will be increased by 25%. Do note that this does not stack with overcharged weapons, but you will still get 25% extra damage from taking advantage of either bonus. Do know that these surges have rotated weekly in the past, so make sure to keep an eye on the surge for that week in case they're different than described in this video. And finally, Glaives will be doing 25% bonus damage throughout the raid, again not stacking with those previous two buffs. The opening load-in area of the raid is the same as normal, just with the knights having arc shields. Do note that every knight throughout the raid will have arc shields other than barrier knights. This isn't nearly as impactful nowadays with the removal of match game, but still good to note. The first encounter, the Abyss, is also our active challenge for this first week. This challenge, called Conservation of Energy, requires us to play the encounter faster than normal, as we can only enlighten one lamp between every chalice preservation location. Before we talk too much about this, do note that if you're not trying to do the challenge, you can ignore any challenge-specific information. You can still enlighten lamps as normal, but we are going to be talking about the challenge here. Movement abilities are extremely helpful for this, with Strand Grapple being an absolutely top-tier option, and things like Icarus Dash, Arc Amplified, and Swords also being potentially helpful. Our main goal with this challenge is to get as far as we can after preserving a chalice before we have to enlighten a lamp to extend our Engulfed in Darkness timer. The first lamp always has a chalice preservation location, but after that the preservation locations are random and can have some variable distances between them. My recommendation is to make sure you always go at least 2 lamps before enlightening after preserving a chalice, and push for a 3rd lamp if you can, as this will allow you to be halfway or more to the next chalice preservation location. Do note that this means you will be playing with high weight of darkness for a significant portion of this encounter, which is why movement tech is so extremely useful for this challenge. There's also a chance that you will make it all the way from one chalice preservation location to another chalice preservation location without using any enlighten buffs. If this happens, great, that's actually a big positive, but it is recommended to enlighten the lamp just before preserving the chalice so that you can make use of this section's enlightenment and of the lower weight of darkness when you start moving again. Just be sure to have someone ready to grab the chalice once it's preserved, and move quickly before the lamp explodes in this situation. Also make sure to keep track of how many people are getting enlightened throughout the encounter. Depending on your pace and any potential deaths, you may start having too many people enlightened, which can make making up for any deaths difficult if there's no one left to grab the chalice from someone. I'd recommend never having more than 2 people enlightened at a time, as you can no longer just use one of these enlightens to get rid of them whenever you want. This gives you a backup in case one of your enlightened people dies right before needing to use it, while still having 4 other people that can pass the chalice between them, including for preserving and repicking up the chalice at any of those locations. Remember that for this strategy, and actually in all portions of the raid, as long as someone grabs the chalice before it's full, you won't become enlightened, and you also will not acquire the Drained of Light debuff. Also note, as this is something that confuses people quite often, depositing the chalice in a preservation location will not give you enlightened no matter when you deposit, but it will give you the Drained of Light debuff. Again, this means if you have 0 charged with light on your chalice, you dunk it, you don't get enlightened. If it is full, completely full, you dunk it, you still don't get enlightened. So don't worry about that. There's no reason to hang on to it specifically for that reason. Really, the only time you'd want to be hanging on to it is if you're trying to, like, get people back to you and, like, kind of save some time on the timer before you reset back to 60 seconds. Other than that, just go ahead and preserve it right away. After you get up the hill near the end of the maze, note that you will always have one final chalice preservation location here, either directly to your right as you get up the hill, or in front of the next lamp after this one. Once you dunk at this final location wherever it is, you'll get the message, "A plate hums with the power of the podiums of light." This message means that you can go straight to the final plate and enlighten it to start the final plate building phase, and you can definitely take advantage of this by skipping some of the lamps in some cases. The only master-specific changes here are that at the very end, there will be barrier champions in addition to the normal unstoppable champions, so be ready to deal with those on the plate. Once the bridge is formed, make your way to the light to finish the encounter, and get your Adept weapon for this week. Do note that these weapons are on a randomized knockout list for this raid, so there's no specific weapon you will be getting from each individual master encounter, but this will just give you different Adept weapons until you have all of them through completing these master challenges. The second encounter, the bridge, is very similar on Master to Normal. Our normal strategy is to get everyone enlightened other than one person, and send them across with the chalice, allowing them to immediately preserve it on the other side, and then help as each sword player comes across. Don't forget to have anti-barrier weapons for the knights as per usual, with an ability to stun 2 new unstoppable ogres at the very end. Blinding grenades can also be useful throughout this section. The gatekeepers to kill once you're across the bridge can hit hard here on Master, so having the first player be a well warlock with Phoenix Protocol can make things especially easy to have a well for each sword player to use to take down the gatekeepers. Do note that after getting 3 people across the bridge to build it from the other side, your home team side can and should get off the plates and go up the staircase where you first came in the encounter to have significant safety. Once everyone's across the bridge, the team can meet in the middle near the chalice preservation location and start getting enlightens again for the final section. Do note that the 2 ogres that come in at the end are both unstoppable champs now. Also, the final 5 gatekeepers that come rushing out can hit very hard as mentioned earlier, and even kill players in a well if enough of them hit at once. Due to this, separating them a bit can be very useful, and once they're all dead, make sure to deposit the chalice to complete the encounter. The third encounter, Erut, has a few changes. First, the knights all have arc shields as mentioned earlier, and additionally, once you get to the room with the chalice in the middle, 2 anti-barrier knights will consistently spawn out of the middle room doors. Because of this, make sure you're not constantly standing in the middle crystal room itself, and standing off to one of the side rooms will make it so much safer and allow you to kill adds from a bit of a distance. Sticking together here in a well or banner of war can additionally keep you and your teammates alive even easier. As with the normal version, a player on Divinity with Cenotaph Mask is extremely useful for boss DPS and heavy ammo economy, with a player on Aeons as a backup if no one's able to use Cenotaph. Don't forget that this week is both Strand and Solar Surge, so having one of these damage types as your DPS weapon of choice is a free 25% damage right off the bat. I could also see Thunderlord still being an at least reasonable option, due to the overcharged weapon modifier giving it 25% damage if you have Overload Machine Gun activated, but I have not tested it. It does feel like 2-phasing this boss on Master will most likely be a bit challenging and not nearly as smooth as on Normal, so having preparation for a potential 3rd phase is going to be very helpful. My recommendation is that once you have 4 players enlightened on your 3rd phase, have the final 2 players go up top to the balcony. From there, the final player can grab the chalice once the 5th person's chalice is full, and they can immediately go into their room. Do note that this means that you will need to leave a room on the balcony for this player to do and kill the wizard in, but this is guaranteed to always be a possibility, as there are 7 total rooms and 5 wizards on the 3rd phase, so at least one of these 3 balcony rooms will always have a wizard on this 3rd phase. And finally, we have Crota. Once again, there's a few changes, with the Boomer Knights again having arc shields, and the 2 ogres that spawn in after killing all the Boomer Knights are now unstoppables. I already teach this on the normal version, but you should absolutely be focusing down both ogres as soon as they spawn before worrying about the sword bearer. At least one player on Aeons can be very useful to keep up ammo for your team. As the tractor cannon player, I went ahead and ran it for the team and think that is probably a good idea for most situations. We did additionally have a second player running Aeons to make some ammo for me as well, but things like heavy ammo finders and scouts on your helmet, and elemental munitions on the seasonal artifact can additionally help with any ammo economy issues. Arc Resist is very much advised here, with the Wizards, Knights, Cursed Thralls, and Crota himself all providing plenty of arc damage. I personally still like getting 3 swords and taking down Crota all at once, and this will definitely be great to be prepared for the Crota challenge week anyway, but do note that due to the ogres becoming unstoppables now, this does mean you'll have a few less guns in the field to be able to stun them. so those not using a sword need to be a little extra on it for these last set of ogres especially. Multiple Wells of Radiance is highly recommended for damage itself, with solar swords such as Lament giving you that 25% damage boost once again. As I mentioned earlier in the video, just watch out for any potential rotating damage surges if running these encounters in future weeks and adjust accordingly. The Oversoul was still 2 shots with my Rapid Fire Fusion, making it easy to take down from any location and as close to 0 seconds as possible. Outside of that, survival and communication on Chalice timers are absolutely still the most important parts of this encounter, and amplified even more due to the mastered modifiers and changes. I hope my guide to the changes in the Master Crota's End raid was helpful for those of you looking to take on this new endgame challenge. Don't forget I'll be doing helps on my stream a ton for the rest of the season, so come on by if you have any questions or want a chance to run. And as always, thank you so much for watching, and have a wonderful day.